Hi everyone, Sabrina here from Scrappy Tales Crafts, and today I'm going to be creating 2 cards using some Trinity Stamp products. I will be using this 4x8 stamp set called Let's Shellebrate, and I will also use Sharkbait, and then I'm also going to use the coordinating dies for both of the stamp sets. I'm also going to be pulling in some slimline dies by Trinity Stamps, and I think a few other things that will come up later on in the video. But I'm going to show you how I colored in this adorable little octopus here. I filmed a previous video showing how I colored in the fish and a lot of the images from Sharkbait, so I'm going to link to that video down below. This video was quite long because they were involved cards, so I thought I would just leave in the octopus just because that was the only image that I did not show in that video. But I'm going to make my octopus purple, so I'm going to use my zigs. And whenever I color with zigs, I always start with my darkest marker and map out my shadow areas. So I wanted the shadows to all be under the octopus's tentacles. And I am being quite generous with this darker marker. I wanted this color to show up more than the others, just because I really liked this particular shade of purple. So I'm going to come in now with my lighter purple marker and just go over those darker areas. I'm barely going to touch that darker color with the tip of my lighter marker, but I do want to pull some of that darker pigment and mix it in with that lighter marker, just so that it blends a little bit easier. And mixing in that darker pigment with the lighter will create more of a mid-tone color, which just again helps with the blending, and especially when I add in my water brush. Because I'm not adding any additional purple, I'm relying on that darker color to move towards the center and get lighter with my water brush. So a lot of the times when I work with my zigs, I use my highlighter marker as water because I really like the contrast. And I tend to leave more white space or a larger highlight area with my zigs, just because I feel that zigs, the darker colors, will definitely overpower the lighter ones. So having that white space just ensures that the center is going to be a brighter, lighter color. I hope that makes sense. I've played around with these zigs for several years, and this is definitely my preferred way of coloring. So for the little mouth, I gave him a cute pink tongue, and I made the inside of his mouth black just to help it pop out. And then I'm going to add white details. So on the stamp there are little dots on the tentacles and on the cheeks. So I'm going to add those back in with my white gel pen. I don't tend to always do white highlights for my stamped images, but I really felt like this elevated the coloring a lot. I really like how it turned out. So off camera, I went ahead and die cut a whole bunch of images. Some of these I used on that previous video, and then the rest I used for today's video. And I just had a pile of these off to the side so that I could start working on a bunch of cards at once. So here I'm just showing you all of them, and then I will just set them aside, and then we can start card 1. So I went ahead and die cut this border from the Celebration Borders die set from 3 shades of blue cardstock. And I'm left with these really cute swirls, which I thought would be nice waves for my ocean scene. I also die cut a stitch rectangle slimline die from some white cardstock. And now I'm just going to lay out my scene with my waves. I also ink blended a sandhill here. Unfortunately, I lost the footage for that, but I used frayed burlap and antique linen for that sandhill. And so for the waves, I needed there to be water underneath them. So I'm taking the same colored cardstock I used to die cut that border from, and I'm going to glue it onto the paper and cut the top of it off so that just the border is exposed at the top, and then I will cut some of it off the bottom so I'm working with a smaller section and not this huge piece of paper. And I only need about half the die, so I didn't bother to glue the entire border down, just so that it was easier for me to cut the little bit of paper that was sticking out of the top of that border die. It was a little bit tricky, but eventually I got it, and I really like how that looks. So here are my 3 shades of blue cardstock. I will pull them in here, and I'm taking my same stitch rectangle die, and I'm going to die cut all 3 blue pieces from this die so that they all have the stitching around the sides. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach these panels onto my white stitch rectangle. I'm just going to layer them. I'm going to go from lightest to darkest, from the bottom to the top. And I'm using my ATG tape to attach these down. I surprisingly did not use foam tape. Whenever I create layered grasses or hills, I tend to always pop up my last couple hills that are in the forefront of the card, but for these I just adhered them all completely flat. And so all I have to glue down now are my sand hills. So I cut that long hillside ink blended panel so that I can layer 2 on top of each other. And I thought adding the sand at the bottom would be nice for my little crab to sit on. So once that last sand hill is attached, I will go ahead and grab my die cuts. Oh wait, nope. I'm actually going to add a few more of these waves because, like I said, I only used about half of the border die, and I figured why not use the rest of it and add these in between each of the different shades of blue. I didn't bother to add one at the top just because I knew my shark would be covering the entire section up there. So I'll flip this panel around and trim off the excess, and then I will go ahead and start laying out my die cut images. I knew I wanted my sentiment to be stamped on a black stitch banner and added to the bottom of that sandhill. So I'm going to lay that down also for reference. So I thought these 4 images fit nicely on the card, and because I wanted this to be a birthday themed card, I'm going to give a few of my characters some birthday items to hold. This little crab will hold an ice cream and a cupcake. My shark will have a birthday hat, and my little snorkeler guy will have a, I don't know what those are called, like a blowhorn party thing. And I will attach all of these die cuts down with my foam tape so that there is a little bit of dimension on this card. And so these will probably be my final 2 summer cards of the year. I didn't create very many this year just because summer just flew by, and I'm sure not just me, but most people's plans were canceled this year for summer vacation, so I wasn't as enthusiastic this year about summer cards, and summer is probably my least favorite season of all just because it's super hot in Florida, and I really enjoy fall cards, so I'm very excited to get to Halloween and Christmas, which I think everyone can agree, or most people can, that Halloween and Christmas are the funnest time to make greeting cards. And I've already made quite a few. If you follow me on Etsy or on Instagram, I post all of the cards that I don't post on YouTube over there if you want to check them out. So I'm now working on the sentiment. I chose birthday fishes, and I think that was from Let's Shellebrate. I'm going to white heat emboss it onto this black banner, and this banner is from the Stitch Card Panels and Banners die set from Trinity Stamps. So I will attach that flat with some art glitter glue, and then that's pretty much going to complete the scene. I wanted to mat this onto a scalloped rectangle, but as you can see, that darker blue border, wavy border, is overhanging. So I decided to only use the scallop on the sides of this panel, and I trimmed off the top and I hid the bottom scallop with this panel. So here you're going to see what I'm talking about. I'm going to attach it all the way to the bottom of this white panel, and then I will trim the top off so that the blue border is hanging instead of the white. And then I will just attach it to my slimline card base, which is 3 3/4 by 8 3/4. And then I felt like I needed some embellishments, so I have these bubbles that are shaped like hearts, also by Trinity Stamps, so I'll just scatter a few of those around the scene, and I thought they just added a nice little sparkle, but they weren't distracting too much. And then I'll just attach those down with my art glitter glue, and then that's pretty much going to complete my first slimline card. So here is the card slowed down, and then I'm also going to show you a picture, just because I feel like on pictures you can see the colors a little bit better. And then for my second card, I'll be creating an A2, and I'm going to start by creating a stenciled background, which I don't tend to do on my channel. I do it very rarely because I have sort of a love-hate relationship with stencils, because a lot of the time they do shift on me and I kind of ruin what I've ink blended, but because these balloons are so large, it's very easy to line them back up. And so I ended up really liking how this background turned out. Here you can see I shifted the stencil and I was able to line it up pretty easily. And the two Distress Oxide inks I'm using is Broken China and Picked Raspberry. I thought those colors would look nice with the purple, and as you can see, when you layer the balloons on top of each other, they create purple. And I love that the stencil makes these balloons look transparent. It's a really neat stencil, and it is layering, so the balloons are meant to layer together. Obviously you can see it's a slimline stencil, so these balloons would line up perfectly on a slimline card, but they also work for any size card. I'm just kind of picking and choosing the balloons I want to blend. So I'm just finishing up that last balloon, and then when I clean my stencils, I just use my Distress ink water sprayer and a dry paper towel to wipe the ink off of them. And I thought it would be cool to layer the Trinity Stamp Confetti stencil over the top of this balloon stencil. So it's quite a stencil intense background, and it turned out really nice. So stencils are really starting to grow on me. I had to make sure that these balloons were completely dry, so I did heat set them, and to make sure that they were completely dry, I did pour some embossing powder over them to see if it would stick, and it didn't, so that led me to believe that it was not sticky anymore and that it was completely dry. So I moved forward with the confetti stencil, and I'm adding Versamark to these confetti pieces because I wanted to use some silver sparkle embossing powder. And so I do have a designated finger dauber for Versamark ink. And then this just added a nice little sparkle to the background. The sparkle embossing powder I'm using is by Sparkle and Sprinkle. And I just added that stencil to the top and bottom of this panel. I knew the center would be primarily covered by my octopus, so I didn't worry too much about adding the confetti there. So I'll just heat set this, and this confetti stencil is another layering one, but I just went with one layer because I didn't want to overwhelm this panel with confetti. I still wanted those balloons to be the main background element. So here I'm bringing in my little octopus, and I'm going to dress him for a birthday occasion. So I'm going to give him a party hat and then some various birthday treats and presents. I love that it looks like he can hold all these items, and I kind of wish I added the ice cream to his front tentacles to make it look like he was licking it, and I think I'd give that a try. see right here, but I guess I didn't like it, so the ice cream didn't make it, but I think that's a cute idea. So I'm going to pop up this entire octopus with some foam tape. And then for my sentiment, I'm going to use that same stitch banner die from the last card. It is a slimline banner, so what I did was I cut it in half, and I was able to use it for both of my cards. But at first I thought I wanted a stitch rectangle to just go across the center, but when I combined those two sentiments, it was too long. So I ended up just going with a shorter banner to the bottom right of the card. I die cut that banner, like I said, from that black cardstock, which was the leftover from my last card. And then I white heat embossed the sentiment. So here I'm just heat setting it. And then I will attach that flat with art glitter glue onto the bottom of this panel. And then to embellish this card, I'm going to take some Trinity Stamp clear sequins and just scatter them around my little octopus. And I really like how these blend in with those silver heat embossed confetti. And I think this card ended up looking really, really cute. So I'll go ahead and flip this panel around and attach it to my A2 card base. And then that will complete my second card. So I'll pull in that first one I created. And I hope I was able to give you guys some last minute summer inspiration. If you guys can't quite let go of summer yet, there's still time. You can still make a few more. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't yet already, please subscribe to my channel, and I will otherwise see you next time. Bye!